This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm joined by promoter Eddie Hearn out here in Las Vegas. Eddie, how are you?
Good, mate. Not as good as you. I mean, how long have you been out in there?
This is my third week in Vegas, fourth week in America, including Canelo.
Mate, my heart bleeds for you. My heart bleeds. You had a great couple of weeks. Hopefully we get another one on Saturday.
Certainly, that's what we are hoping for, Eddie. Certain topics we will have to discuss as the interview progresses, but let's start here. Haney-Linares. Eddie, are you excited to see Devin in a fight with a name who has achieved so much as what Jorge Linares has?
It's a great fight, isn't it? I mean, you know, you only got to listen to the teams talk, to both fighters talk. I want to know how good Devin Haney is. You know, I believe he's the best lightweight in the world. This is the kind of fight that's going to show us how good he is. Jorge Linares looks tremendous. I think he's had a great training camp. I think he's absolutely primed to try and upset the wheel in this fight. And Devin Haney is the favourite going into this fight. But Haney's never boxed at this level before. He's going to have to show levels. I believe he's got plenty of them in the tank. And I just think it's a really, really good fight.
Eddie, Devin is a heavy favourite with the bookies heading into this fight. Yeah. Is that a surprise to you?
It does, because, you know, hype is one thing, but on what are you basing that? You know, he's never boxed anyone of the level of Jorge Linares, so you're picking him as a big favourite because you believe in the hype. And you believe in the performances so far in which he's cruised through the opposition. But I see this as much more of a 50-50 fight. I still believe Devin's the favourite, but we need to know how good he is. And this is a time to find out. And I think you're going to get Jorge Linares pushing him and testing him the whole way. He has tremendous feet. He has great hand speed. He can punch. He's very intelligent. He's super fit. This is exactly the right fight for Devin Haney and the right platform for him to go out. You know, we've got 5,000 people coming on Saturday. Could have sold out the whole arena, live on DAZN. Everybody in Vegas dialed in to this young kid that could well be the future star of boxing. Let's find out.
We've seen 5,000 tickets sold so far, Eddie. With regards to Devin being a ticket seller, is that a bit of a confidence boost to show that he can sell tickets, maybe not necessarily across the US, but he's certainly got that growing fan base now?
For sure. His profile is higher than it's ever been. Obviously, he lives in Las Vegas. It's also a fantastic fight. Don't also underestimate Linares. Great fight against Lomachenko. It's a mixture of everything, but mainly it's because Devin Haney is a star and people are believers. People want to watch him fight. I feel like us, as a promotional company as well, we've now got visibility, credibility. You know, the Canelo link-up's obviously been fantastic for us, and we're starting to get that same kind of feedback when we do shows now that, okay, it's Matchroom. Like, you know, in the UK, where Matchroom put on a show, fans go. They want to know who's on, but the fact that, and some other promoters have got that here, Top Rank, PBC, they've got credibility, they've got visibility, they've been doing it a long time. We're starting to get some of that respect now from fight fans, and that's going to help us, especially when you've got superstars like Devin Haney.
Eddie, I've seen Teofimo Lopez a couple of times whilst I've been out here. A couple of days ago, over the most recent occasion, he kind of laid into Devin a bit, started calling him a paper champ, an email champ, saying that whenever, well, in the 4 months prior to the Kambosos fight being agreed for himself through the purse bids, he had that period where he was waiting for an offer, waiting for negotiations to begin with, not just Devin, with a Ryan Garcia, with a Gervonta Davis, etc. None of it came to fruition, and he started going in on Devin a bit. Just your thoughts on his comments?
No, I haven't seen the video. I mean, look, I think we've always made it clear we want to fight Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez, the only way he can become undisputed is to beat Devin Haney. I saw Josh Taylor's comments where he was goading him about that as well. And by the way, Teofimo, I've said this before, he deserves to be undisputed. He's not. He has to beat Devin Haney to become undisputed. And I think Teofimo Lopez is more than up for the fight against Devin Haney. I think he believes he can beat him. And if Devin Haney wins on Saturday, Teofimo Lopez will receive a huge offer to fight Devin Haney. It is an absolute super fight. Two brilliant young fighters, but we got to handle business first on Saturday. Teofimo's got to beat George Kambosos. I'm a big Teofimo Lopez fan, but we will be making a sizable offer for him to fight Devin Haney if Devin can win at the weekend.
Ward versus Fuzile certainly seems to be getting a lot of attention now. What are your thoughts on it?
Do you know what? This is a really good card. You know, I know that it's not got the mega names on, but all of the fights are fascinating. You look at those three fights: Cameron against Hernandez, obviously Chantel Cameron defending her world title, Jason Quigley against Shane Mosley, great fight as well. Ward against Fuzile, really, really good fight. Like Azinga Fuzile is a very, very good fighter. He's got one controversial loss to Rakimov. He's tricky, he's awkward, he can punch a bit. And for Wardy, this is his moment. I'm so proud to give him this chance here because I've got a soft spot for him. Tony Sims is like family to us. You know, I saw Wardy at 16, 17. I thought this kid has got everything. But he's got a really tough fight. But this is his moment. You know, this is his opportunity to go and do it all. And what better place to do it than Las Vegas? There's nothing like Vegas, is there, as a British... I mean, I know I'm promoting the show, but I feel like a British fight fan. I'm looking at Chantel Cameron, Jamie Moore, you know, Akib Fiaz, Jack Catterall walking around. I'm looking at Wardy. Look at Conor Benn. He's like a superstar out here, Conor Benn. You know, but this is what it's all about for us because where we come from, little old England, this is everything. So I'm so proud that these guys, Ramla Ali, you know, Khalil Ko, Reshat Mati, are getting a chance to fight here, especially people like Wardy that have dedicated his whole life to the sport. But he has to produce a great performance to win. And if Wardy can win, he's got his shot at a world title. So, you know, we're 1,000,000% behind him.
Eddie, on to the one topic which I'm sure has given you a few nightmares over this past week or so. Deontay Wilder successful with his arbitration case last week, meaning AJ Fury is off. Firstly, what was your reaction to hearing that news?
Well, I've said before, you know, I was at home, just settled down for a little snack on a sofa, which is quite usual for me. And I got two texts actually from a couple of journalists who said, "Oh, I hear that Wilder's won the arbitration and they're fighting in July." And it's never good to get a text like that because sometimes it's speculation, but generally there's got substance to it. So I didn't do anything, and then I phoned Bob Arum. And I went, "Bob, what's going on?" And he went, "Oh, you won't believe it. We lost the arbitration. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe it. Oh." And I said, "Well, what are you going to do about it?" He said, "Well, we're going to fight Deontay Wilder." I said, "Well, are you not going to have a conversation with him? Is there no step aside?" No, look, we're going to have to fight him. You know, we'll get that out of the way and then we can talk. And I was like, just shell-shocked at this moment. So I come off the call and I couldn't really understand what I just heard, you know. So from there, of course, the news broke. I spoke to AJ and AJ felt all along that none of them wanted to fight because he looked at all their comments, even Fury. I don't know. You know, I sat down with Fury. I'd like to believe that Tyson Fury wanted that fight with AJ. But even after the news broke, there was no disappointment from Tyson Fury. There was no anger from Tyson Fury. There was no moaning or complaining to his promoters and his team about what had happened and the fact that he just lost $60 million. It was just too smooth. Do you know what I mean? So I went back to Bob and I said, "Bob, you have to try and get a step aside here." Yeah, well, okay, I'll speak to Al and, you know, we'll work it out. But I just believe, I don't know what happened, but something happened. And when you look back at all the comments over the timeline, at what point did Bob Arum or Frank Warren ever really sound up for that fight or excited by that fight? And, you know, you can say, well, you know, you knew about the arbitration. Of course I knew about the arbitration. The world knew about the arbitration. But we were told consistently by Bob Arum that there is absolutely no way this arbitration will get into that fight, would affect that fight. And maybe I shouldn't have, but I believed him. And unfortunately, it transpired it wasn't the case.
Did you have any suspicions at all that the arbitration wasn't maybe going to go your way just simply because of how long it had dragged out?
No, because we were always told that was completely under control. There is no way the arbitrator will order the rematch. I don't even think Wilder was actually asking for the rematch. I think they'd almost accepted that fight was happening and they were asking for damages. But for the arbitrator to come out and order the rematch before a specific timeline, that's the kind of thing that a governing body does. That's why it stinks to me so much. And also, if you read the arbitration, it says that Top Rank had the ability and the opportunity, rather, to determine a contract, to cancel the contract with Wilder. And they never did it because they kept on talking, they kept on giving him hope. And in the end, who knows how this decision was made? The strangest decision. It completely and utterly stinks. I don't trust anyone involved at all. And, you know, I saw Spencer Fearon today, "Oh, Eddie Hearn got played." It's like, well, sorry. I tried to make the biggest fight in the world. I spent 5 months of my life believing people and believing that everyone was on board for the same reasons, to make the biggest fight in boxing. That's what we have to do. So maybe I shouldn't have trusted anyone. Maybe I shouldn't have believed them. But I did.
You just said there, Spencer Fearon had those comments. I've seen a few people over social media suggest the same. Do you feel like it yourself?
It's mad that people almost like they want to celebrate the fact that, oh, these guys, they were just winding you up the whole time. Like me, really, is that what you want to celebrate? Or do you want to say, how has this fight not happened? Because I tell you what, all I've done over 5 months is work my bollocks off to try and make this fight happen. Bob Arum, Frank Warren, this fight won't happen. They'll never get a site deal. The Saudis don't want it in August. You know, every excuse under the book. I dealt with all that. We got it into place. All their lawyers, and people talk about, you know, the arbitration. All of our lawyers from all teams were on the phone, finalising everything, non-stop. Like, loads of work's gone into this. Months of work. So, do I feel like I've been played? I haven't thought of it like that. I feel disappointed. I feel cheated. I feel like the sport's been cheated. I feel like AJ's been cheated because I failed. You know, as I said in an interview. I can't say that I succeeded because, yes, I got the deal done. Yes, we did everything that was against the odds, but I didn't get them both in the ring. But I did everything I can. And as long as you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I couldn't have done any more. And I couldn't have done any more than what I did. So rather than celebrate that, oh, these guys, they played you, why don't you be angry with the fact that these guys fucked up the biggest fight in history and made sure that the Undisputed Heavyweight World Championship didn't happen? Ask them what the reasons are that they decided to do that.
Eddie, was you surprised to see how swiftly Wilder Fury 3 was announced with regards to the date with Allegiant being booked, and then on ESPN on the show with Josh Taylor Ramirez, Tyson Fury had signed his contract?
Yeah, and I think Wilder signed it 3 days before, so like a day after the arbitration. If you're not, you're an absolute clown if you can't see that the whole thing stinks. A clown. But you know, in the only bit of defence for them, people say, oh, it's ridiculous. They sign the contract so quickly. A lot of the terms are already dealt with in the previous contract. So it is, but again, I'm not so bothered about how quickly it was signed. Just everything was so smooth. Yeah, let's announce on air, sign a contract, great, you sign the contract. If I'm Fury, I'm going, hang on a minute, what the fuck has gone on here? You told me this fight was being made. I'm making an absolute fortune. You guys are now putting me in a fight that but it wasn't. It was like, yeah, no problem. Okay, sign here, sign there. I mean, getting these people to agree to anything took months and months and months. Yet they're willing to move forward on a fight, which I'm sure many terms were pre-agreed, but just happily, you know, arm in arm together. Stinks. The whole thing stinks. So we can't do anything about that. We have to move forward with AJ's career and make the right moves for him.
One final question on it before we do come on to AJ and what's next. What is the relationship currently like between yourself with Bob and the other parties involved, and has it soured at all?
It's just business. Like, Bob would call me tomorrow if he had a chance to make some money. You know, and if I want to make a fight with Top Rank, I'd call him. I have no emotion towards these people. Honestly, wasn't walking around the living room banging the floor and crying. I just thought, it's boxing. You know, and the one thing that is so hard to come by in boxing is honesty and loyalty. So when you find it, you keep hold of it and you make sure you don't let it go, because they're the real people. So people don't realise what was going on behind the scenes, how fragmented the whole team were, you know, dealing with Tyson Fury. Everyone had a different agenda. So it's just another day in the office.
I have to ask Eddie, provided AJ and Fury come through their next fight successfully, are you confident that we will see it after that?
I told you many times, this fight is done, you know, because I'm believing what I'm hearing. I've got Tyson Fury, you see him on the Instagram, this fight is done, I spoke to Prince Khalid, I'm going to smash you, Anthony Joshua. Then you've got Bob Arum 1 week, he tells people he hasn't spoke to me for 2 weeks, yet he spoke to me 3 days ago. Then you've got Frank Warren on TalkSport saying, no, this will never happen. The whole thing was so confusing. No one has spoke, like, this is another thing. If this was me in Bob Arum's situation, the first thing I'd be doing is trying to find out if there's a deal to step aside. They can say what they want. If there was a conversation about that, trust me, it was a quick one. No one came back to us about the money. No one came back to Saudi about the money to step aside. Wasn't even considered. Since then, if this was me, I'd be coming straight on and going, right, let's lock up the deal for December. Let's go back to the Saudis. We've let them down. Let's move forward with this fight in December. Nothing. No interest at all in having a conversation about that fight. It's bizarre. If I'm Tyson Fury, I'm saying to my team, go and make that fight for December. I'm going to stop Wilder and then we can do the fight. But nothing. So we're going to now deal with our next fight. We'd love to do the Undisputed fight. We would have loved to have done it for the last two years. You know, unfortunately, we move on, we reset, and we go again.
with AJ, I've seen that, you're starting the talks with Alexander Usyk to make that fight, but I've also seen you mention the potential for a Dillian White rematch, or also Andrews Jr., Luis Ortiz being mentioned. What is the most likely outcome? And if AJ didn't fight Usyk, is he happy to vacate his WBO belt?
The most likely outcome is Alexander Usyk, but I think the feeling now amongst the team is all we ever do is have to keep people happy or keep the governing bodies happy. AJ is a throwback fighter. Look at when he beat Vladimir Klitschko. His next fight, he was told he must fight a mandatory. That was Kubrat Pulev. He accepted that challenge. With 10 days to go, Pulev pulled out. He fought Carlos Takam as his mandatory. The next fight, he unified against Joseph Parker. The next fight, the WBA phoned up and said, you must fight your mandatory. Alexander Povetkin, a very dangerous Alexander Povetkin at the time. He beats him. Then finally, he goes, all right, I'm going to have a voluntary. He chooses Andy Ruiz as the voluntary. Loses to him, rematches Andy Ruiz. Then the IBF phone up and say, right, now you've got to take another mandatory. Kubrat Pulev. Okay. We're negotiating all the time with people that sometimes aren't even entitled to a fight. And we've got it again now. The WBO straight away send the letter in. You're now fighting him. And at some point you want to turn around and go, do you know what? Why can't we just breathe and do our own thing? But of course, he wants to be undisputed. So that's why we are considering our options. I think the most likely scenario is we fight Alexander Usyk. If the deal is right, if everyone's sensible, yes, I think that fight happens. But I'll tell you something now. AJ is not in the mood, and nor am I, to be told what to do by governing bodies right now. Do you know what I mean? And there is no guarantee of an undisputed fight right now. So what are we holding on to a belt for? Promises, dreams, whatever. But he respects his belts. He wants to honour his belts. And he's done that for the last 4 years. So that's the likely scenario. All the other names are in play. And we will do now what's right for AJ and no one else.
Do you have a timeline in mind as to when you would like to have something concrete set for AJ?
Yeah, I mean, we're very close to... I mean, I've got a couple of fights ready to go. But I am speaking to Alex Krasuk. That is our preference. That is the fight that I think is most likely. But again, it's got to be right. We're not... If the belt goes, the belt goes. And in an ideal world, we keep the belt. We always want to keep the belt. But we'll see what happens.
Moving forwards, Eddie, this weekend, the UK has an undisputed champion, Josh Taylor, with a brilliant victory against Jose Ramirez. Your thoughts? Fantastic.
I mean, I was quite vocal in a week. I think the promotion of that fight was absolutely criminal. You had 1,000 people in there. I didn't hear anything about the fight. Josh Taylor is an absolute superstar fighter. 18 fights, undisputed, should be an absolute, not just a national star in Scotland, should be a British star, should be a global star, and he's not. Haven't seen the whole fight, seen a lot of highlights, looked brilliant. Shout out to Josh Taylor, shout out to Ben Davison, shout out to the whole team. It looks like a small team, which is great as well. It's a nice story. And good luck for the future. Some massive fights out there. I hope he gets the money and the respect and the profile and everything that he deserves, because he's done it the hard way.
One thing people have picked up on with regards to the fight was Kenny Bayless's performance. What did you make of it?
I haven't seen enough of the fight. I mean, I see him give extra time for the knockdown. I saw there's a lot of complaints about, I think, the way that Josh Taylor was treated. They gave him a shoebox changing room. 3 American judges, which we know sometimes in certain commissions, that's how it's got to be. I don't think, did they want him to win? I don't know. But, fair play to him.
Also, just your thoughts on the fact that a mainstream UK broadcaster did not pick up the fight.
I mean, people moan about, it's Fight TV, wasn't it, who had it? You can still watch it, but you've got to show people how to watch it and where to watch it. So, broadcasters have a budget, they work with promoters, and it's Top Rank's job to sell those UK rights in to a broadcaster. They sold those UK broadcasters in, those rights in with Fight TV. No problem, Fight TV is a good platform. But you've got to push the fight. It's much deeper than where it's aired. You've got to push the fight. And not enough people knew where to find it, what the fight was all about, who Josh Taylor is. These are basic rules of promoting. And the promotion of that, like I said, I felt, for a fight like that, which was tremendous, was criminal.
Just a few other topics to touch on, Eddie. The UK deal with Sky ends on June 1st. When can we expect an announcement? Does it not?
No, it ends on June 31st.
Okay.
Yes, yes, that's
I
right.
apologise.
Because we have our Newcastle show on June 12th. But yeah, there will be an announcement soon on that. We've made our decision, and you know it's exciting times. So we'll see when that announcement comes.
Saw that you've made an offer for Andrade Eubank Jr. Could you just touch on that a bit for me?
Yeah, made an offer to Cali Sowland to do that fight in, I think it looks like August. Great money for Chris Eubank Jr., great opportunity. And we'll see. We're talking to Cala, fight we'd love to make.
Manchester this past weekend, Josh Boazzi with this past weekend, March 15th rather. Brilliant win for him, but what is next now? I think a lot of people kind of want to see that step-up fight.
For sure. I mean, that fight was all about coming back from a long time out, teaming up with Virgil Hunter. We've sent a list of probably 5 or 6 opponents to Virgil Hunter. We're waiting for him to come back. All big step-ups. You know, Joshua Boazzi will be in a big fight at Fight Camp, which is, I mean, when you see this Fight Camp, you're going to have orgasms as a fight fan. It is absolutely outrageous. It is boxing porn at the absolute highest. And he'll be in a big fight at Fight Camp.
Then just a word on the Cunningham Yafai. What next for both of those guys?
Great fight. You know, Cal Yafai had a mandatory in Brad Foster.
Gamal Yafai.
Sorry. He was allowed to take a voluntary against Jason Cunningham. Jason Cunningham now has to fight Brad Foster, and then Gamal, hopefully we can line up for the winner of that fight, which is a brilliant fight, Jason Cunningham. And I'm really pleased for Jason Cunningham. I was gutted for Gamal. You know, he's been with us from the start. I expected him to beat Jason Cunningham, but Cunningham was outstanding. They got the game plan right. Really chuffed for Steffi Ball as well. And, you know, he deserves a big fight, and that will come in the British and European title against Brad Foster.
Right, Eddie, I won't leave on a Thursday motivation because I imagine you're not in the mood for one, but final word to everyone.
I'm fine, because as long as you're breathing, it doesn't really matter. So, you know, like I said, I've been in this sport long enough to you get kicked in the nuts so many times. And that's great, because that's about life. Because some days you wake up and things don't go your way. But the key is to keep on breathing. The key is to find something that you love doing. I do this because I love it. But you have to understand that in life, not everything always goes your way. And when it doesn't, you take it on the chin, you brush yourself down, you get up and you go again. And that's exactly what we do. That's exactly what you've got to do. You have good days, you have bad days. Some days you feel like shit. Some days you feel great. Some days you don't want to do it anymore. And if you're struggling and you feel that way, you've got to talk to people. You know, because sometimes people just sort of keep it all in, they keep their problems in, and that's when you start suffering. So anyone that's suffering out there, anyone who's had a bad time, talk to people about it. But as long as you're breathing, as long as you've got a shot, as long as you've got a chance, you're in the game. And we're in a fucking game, baby. And let me tell you, as devastated as I am about AJ Fury, we'll go again, and we are about to blow this boxing world right up. So let's go, baby.
Eddie?
And how can you not? We're in Vegas. How lucky are we? Not just we're lucky to be breathing, we're lucky to be in Vegas this weekend. How can you not be happy?
That's very well put, Eddie. And you've certainly put me in a good mood.
You should be. Listen, I remember you were coming to the shows in Birmingham, you didn't have a Scooby. You came in, you were terrible suits, your barnet was all over the place. Look at you now, you're smashing it. You've done 5 weeks in America. Fuck me. I didn't think you had any ability. Look at you. You're a decent operator now. Congratulations, son. See you later.
Bit of a backhanded compliment, Eddie. See you later.